Are you using BMAD version 4 and sometimes you find it's not quite doing what you want and you think, I wonder if I could extend it? Now, if you were using version 6 of BMAD, you'd have access to the BMAD module builder, so you could extend it. But with version 4, you've kind of got to wing it a little bit. Now, I was recently working on the Poem framework, so the next part of the video that you're going to see is a continuation inside of the Poem framework where I had to go and extend some BMAD capabilities. I'm Happy Dave, let's check it out. I was just about to move on to the next story when I ran into a small problem. And when I looked at the problem and asked a couple of questions of BMAD, I realized there might be an opportunity for us to extend BMAD with new capability. Now, if we were using version 6, we would have access to the BMAD module builder, which means we could extend workflows and change agents. We don't have that capability in version 4, but we could still add it. So let's have a quick look at the problem and let's see if we can improve the BMAD system around this problem. So the simple problem we're trying to solve is small tasks that create friction in the BMAD method. And what we want to do is have a lightweight backlog sort of system where we can put these maintenance tasks. And once we've got them in place, can we attach them to a couple of agents and be able to list them as maintenance tasks or add new maintenance tasks? So the situation is that we've just implemented 2.3 and I've had two successive issues that I just had to have a quick look at. The first one was that I had a data file in the system that really should have been in the git ignore. So I made a minor change and said, can you add it to the git ignore? And because I didn't know where to put it in the system, I decided to just add it as a little bit of a change to the story. So it's been added to the story post pushing of it. And in this particular situation, that's quite the right thing to do. But then I followed it up with a different question. I said, can you look through the code base, see if there's anything else that should be in the git ignore? And then I got it talking about git leaks. Should we have something in place to stop secrets going into the repository? So it told me that it didn't have git leaks. We could get it going pretty easily if I wanted to. And it got me thinking, how am I going to integrate this into the BMAD workflow? Because the last thing I want to do is a full Happy Dave workflow for this simple little job. So I asked it to go and look at the second brain for version 4 of BMAD and also for version 6. To see whether they've got a capability in the future. Now, because asynchronously I followed it up with one other statement, it went on and just started implementing the capability, even though I hadn't given it authorization. Now, I don't have a problem with that. It's pretty good. And the interesting thing about how it documented it was it just added it to the end of the story that we're working on. But then I started thinking, why wasn't it even in the system at all? So I asked the question, was it in any of our epics? And what it said is that it got planned in the architecture, but it never made it into any of the future stories or the acceptance criteria. The architecture had mentioned one particular way of doing it, not the way I would normally do it. I would like to go with the way it's just implemented for me, but I was still a little curious. If it got into the architecture, why did it not get into any of the acceptance criteria? You might have noticed in the planning session and when we were doing the PRD and the architecture that I followed it up with a custom solutioning process. That's the idea of bringing the architecture and the PRD into alignment because the architecture is written after the PRD, but this needs to be listed in the PRD. And it was able to identify that if we were going to do it, it should have been done in story 1.1. At this point, I went, great, well, at least we can add it. It's fairly easy. We know where it should have happened, and we know why BMAD didn't catch it in this particular case. Now, what it came up with was interesting, and it led me down a rabbit hole that we're exploring right now. And that's, should we create a lightweight debt tracking system? Now, in bigger projects that I've done with the BMAD method, I certainly have what I call Epic 0. And Epic 0 is where I do little stories that are designed for just random pieces of code that I want to add to the system. But this is smaller than that. This is just a tiny little bug that we want to track and we want to fix at the same time. And we may want to delegate it asynchronously to a custom agent that can do it outside of the BMAD system. So I gave it a bit of a prompt saying that I really didn't want to use an Happy Dave workflow or do anything manually. What can we do? And it pointed out that, yes, this is outside of the scope of a normal workflow within BMAD. And it even listed a couple of things that I have done while not on the video, but they've been done in the background. It came up with this perfect statement that the ceremony of setting this all up is not worth it for the amount of work that needs to be done. What it wanted to do was come up with a lightweight tracking system. I thought that's interesting. So the option it wanted to go with, A, was pretty good, but outside of the BMAD system. It came up with two other options that I thought were just wrong for the way BMAD works. They had pros and cons. I read through that. So I gave it a new prompt. Now, I started by asking it to look in my brains directories for both BMAD 4 and BMAD 6 to see whether there is any sort of implementation of what I'm trying to do. It's suggesting to me that neither BMAD 4 or 6 can do it, even though there is this idea of a quick flow if you want to do a simple little feature. And that's the sort of stuff I might want to do for just a simple extension feature. But this is just a chore. It's just a simple little bug that I've noticed and I want to deal with. And it's outside of the scope of the story that we might be developing. Now, I did ask it to come up with a plan, and we can essentially see the plan that it firstly came up with. Three different options. The first one was accept the gap, meaning let's just add it into the story if there is a little bug. Problem with that is that the story is only available to the next story. It's not available to all stories in the future. And so this is not a central location that we can work with. It's also suggesting this lightweight ceremony that we could put in place. This is the way I want to go, but the way it's worded it here is not correct, because what we don't want is for it to be outside of BMAD. We want it to be integrated into BMAD. And it's also suggesting that we talk to Brian and see if it can get added into version 6 as some sort of chore or maintenance workflow. He may already have one and I don't know about it, but this is something we could recommend to the BMAD team. I've just made the statement that I think the answer is that we do need number 2. We also need to tell Brian from BMAD about the third option. The other thing that we need to do is maybe make sure that it gets integrated directly into the workflow. So BMAD, when you're using it, should be able to look back and go, oh, okay, what's going on in the chores? This sort of backlog sort of area. And this is almost a perfect answer. So it's coming up with the idea of a maintenance log, which it would put in the backlog. It's also got the idea that it's going to get integrated into the core configuration YAML. In this case, we are interfering with the standard core that would get installed by BMAD, and that's a bit of a problem. But in the future version 6, they have the BMAD module builder where we can play around with configuring these things. But in version 4, this would still be a good way to get it working. So I've just turned off auto compact because I'm nearly to the end of context on this window. We'll just put in our prompt that says, can you actually execute on the plan of action that you told me about? And follow it up with the plan of action to draft a proposal for the BMAD version 6 team. And we'll let that go in and let's see what happens. Even as it goes, I look through this and think this is wonderful, because one of the ones I've been worried about for the last 2 stories is this underscore context variable showing up as a warning in the linter. But on its own, it's not something I want to deal with, because I don't want to spend the time going, well, how should we deal with it? But if we had 2 or 3 of them in the backlog, then we might be able to bundle them together and do a fix. Enough of the description. Let's just cut to a visualization of what this could look like and what I've done. The idea is that small tasks have big friction in BMAD method. So what we want to do is deal with those 2-minute or 15-minute tasks in a quick way whilst maintaining the integrity of BMAD. In other words, is it documented into the right location? What I'm putting in place is this idea that we have a backlog folder with the maintenance MD. We've also got a core config change so that this just gets integrated into the normal workflows. And it's just a simple list of stuff that has to be done, stuff that has been done. And it's just designed for really small capabilities. So I wouldn't do anything like a modal dialogue. It's a little bit too big. I have a different system for that. But just a simple bug like we're seeing, this is where we can do it. We should be able to add them, list them, or just change the status of them. Now, because it's good to give back to the community, I've also gone and given a proposal through to the BMAD team for version 6. They may come back and say, we've already done it, it's here. But for now, this is the idea that I've put in place. This, of course, is aimed on the BMAD version 4 configuration. They'd need to do it differently, I assume, on version 6. And this is what I want, just a couple of commands that are available. For myself, I've just made it available to the Scrum Master or the product owner, not to the developer, because in my opinion, this is related to documentation and maintenance and tracking, not to actually development. It would be handed over to the developer if they wanted to execute it. Just before I checked all this off, I just took the templates from the issue requests from BMAD, pasted it in and said, can you adapt what I want to what they want? And they've given me this, and we've got everything all documented on the issues register. There's also a little bit of a flow chart of what's going on. And that's just a quick demonstration of how I get around some issues in BMAD by just adapting it on the fly. I'm Appy Dave. If you'd like to see more videos on the BMAD method, check out the playlist in the link down below. Otherwise, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Just a quick note, after the video was recorded, Brian had taken a look at it and talked to one of the guys that had another ticket in development. And so everything I was just talking about is likely to be merged one way or another. The naming for this new capability will be the Tech Debt Tracker. So I think that'll be a good addition. Anyway, I'm Appy Dave. I'll see you in the next video.